Today, on Be Something Wonderful, how to close the reality gap for real. I am your host, Tom Karen, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. I had some powerful sessions all morning, starting around 6 this morning, and I really want to talk about one in particular that I built today's lesson around, because this is a client I haven't talked to in about 3.5 months. And she wanted to give me the news and talk about a couple other things. But here's what we talked about when I first met her, when I first had my session with her. At that time, she described her relationships with her parents as broken. Her and her boyfriend had been dating for over 2 years. And she really wanted that to move forward to something more serious. Her relationships at work were a lot of competition. She wanted to improve those as well. She goes, Tom, I've been working on affirmations. I've been working on my self-concept, affirming, imagining, ho'oponopono, subliminals, all of that. And I do feel, this is what she said at the time, I do feel some really significant changes with my boyfriend, with my parents, all of it. But they just don't seem, they seem to change, and then something else, the opposite comes up. And it doesn't seem like anything permanent. So I really want to talk about this today, guys, and more. Because in this morning's lesson, she said everything's changed. She's now engaged. And so it actually moved to a lot more serious, that her relationships with her parents are better and at work. And it was all just a wonderful session. But I want to really talk about what we had talked about 3.5 months ago. When 3.5 months ago, what we identified is she was trying to control, change, or manipulate her experience of reality. Hear this. Versus creating the reality she desired to experience. In other words, she was trying to change, control, manipulate her self-concept of the current identity, who she thought she was, versus choosing and occupying a new identity. Do you hear that? A new self-concept. She believed that there was something to fix in that alternative reality, in that alternative concept. Remember, you are a multidimensional being. All versions of you exist. It's not about fixing any of those versions. It's about picking the reality, picking the version you want to occupy now. Do you hear that? We're trying to fix what we think is a broken 3D reality or broken concept of ourselves versus just occupying. It's just really what it is. It's just an undesired concept now. At one point you desired it, otherwise you wouldn't be experiencing it. But now you have outgrown it, or you have new ideas, new desires. You're seeing it from a new vantage point. So it's now time to select a new alternative reality or a new concept or a new version of you, right? So here, when you're trying to control circumstances or improve your self-concept, you're going from the outside in. That traps you within the paradox of who you assume you are. Versus from the inside out, go to the center of who you really are, or your higher self. Right? It's not about changing, it's about choosing. It's not about influencing, it's about identifying with the concept you want to be now. Trying to stay on the positive polarity of your dual identity is exhausting. I've pointed this out in a few lessons now, several months ago. And when you're trying to change that current concept of yourself, or your experience of reality, you're trying to stay on the positive side of a polarity, of a dual identity. Right? As opposed to just choosing the identity you want to be now, as opposed to trying to stay on the positive side of that concept that you believe needs to be fixed. Just leave that concept alone. There's nothing to fix. It's a one concept out of an infinite number of concepts, one reality out of an infinite number of reality, one version of yourself out of an infinite number. They don't need to be fixed. You just need to move to make your choice again. Who do you want to be now? Instead, create the identity or reality you desire to experience now. Wow, that's powerful. So, one more time, this is big, right? They're not setbacks, they're not cycles, they're not patterns. You all described that. None of that's true. Right? There's nothing wrong with that reality. There's nothing wrong with you. You just choose now a new identity, a new concept, a new experience. Hear this. A new experience of that one mind, of that one consciousness. Wow. right? So just limiting beliefs from holding on to a limiting identity. That's all they are. Setbacks, cycles, patterns are just limiting beliefs from holding on to a limiting identity, right? You're trying to control your thoughts, your feelings and emotions, or in other words, your experience of consciousness, rather than creating and calling forth the experience of consciousness you desire, or in other words, creating the reality you desire to experience now. That's powerful. One more time. You're trying to control your thoughts, your feelings and emotions, or in other words, your experience of consciousness, rather than creating and calling forth the experience of consciousness you desire, or in other words, creating the reality you desire to experience now. That's so powerful. So remember, there's a perceived reality gap that we always feel that we're working on, we're running, chasing, trying to close, right? Trying to do meditations, trying to affirm, trying to fix ourselves or our reality or our concept. It's that current reality, that old one, what we call the old reality, the undesired concept or identity where we feel separation, to the new reality, our new ideal, our desired concept, our new identity, our oneness, right? We're immersed in the undesired reality by trying to improve it, change it, or fix your current or old identity or reality. You're immersed in it when you're trying to fix it. There's nothing wrong with it. You just choose again. You're immersed in processes, affirmations, reprogramming, all that, scripting, Ho'oponopono, all of that, thinking that you need to fix it and that's how you're going to move. And you will get some, I'm not saying that you can't make progress, quote, progress, and feel better about yourself or reality. You can, and you can manifest things like that, but only under the context of that continued limited identity or that continued limited reality. Only marginal improvements. Right? You can feel better about your old identity, your concept of yourself, but you still feel separated. Why? Because your identity or self or concept still feels incomplete. It still feels separated, not enough. So you are on a constant journey to close the gap, as opposed to just moving to and identifying with that I amness, identifying with that higher concept of yourself and moving to your desired reality. Wow, that's big. So, and here's the key. Remember, the screen of consciousness is without, I put dotted lines here to represent that it's without bounds in all directions. There's no boundaries to this screen. The screen of consciousness, or that I amness, or that awareness, or that God quantum field, or that God within you is without bounds. But no matter what you identify with as your identity or self-concept in 3D reality, it's never enough. Wow. No matter what movie you shine on that screen of consciousness within you, it's never enough, because it's not infinity, it's not God, it's not all there is. You're always going to feel that, right? The screen, the totality of that one consciousness, God or all that is, can never appear as an image or a movie on the screen. You can never see the all on the screen. That's why you always feel separated, right? So no movie, or in other words, a collection of thoughts, images, feelings, assumptions, perceptions, and beliefs that we call our 3D experience can ever capture the infinite nature of whom you really are. Wow. Your I am is the door or the awareness to the infinite. That's big. That's why you always feel like you're chasing, trying to fix things, right? That's so big today. So, what's the paradox? All the actions and processes are to return to the wholeness or close the reality gap. That's why you do them. Return to the I amness. But if they happen in the reality where you believe you are limited, in other words, if you're doing these processes from that undesired identity or undesired reality, then these actions are created by the limited identity, the undesired reality, and they perpetuate the assumption that you're incomplete and limited. Do you hear this? Because you're creating from that limited identity. So you can only perpetuate the feeling that something's missing. That's why you've been working on your self-concept. You've been working on those things and you have felt better marginally. But it never really closes that gap, right? Reality is not something to be, right? Created outside of you. Right? It's not something to be created. Reality is not something to be created outside of you. Okay? Because you are reality. You are reality of the creator, you're the identity. I am what? I am, what did you decide? It's not something outside of you. You are perfect, you're whole, you're complete. And it's only the self or identity that you created that then becomes the reality you feel that you need to fix, improve, or repair. Hear this again. Reality is not something to be created outside of you. You're perfect, you're whole, you're complete, and it's only the self or identity that you created. You created this limited self, this concept that you want to change, to improve. That then becomes your reality that you feel the need to fix, improve, repair, and change. To fix the own reality that you identified with, that you chose. Wow. That's big. So triggers, setbacks, negative feelings all come from identifying with and embodying an identity or self-concept reality you no longer desire to experience. This is huge. Hear this. Because I talked with one of you this morning about triggers. Triggers, setbacks, negative feelings all come from this. Hear this. From identifying with and embodying an identity, a self-concept, a version of yourself, a reality that you no longer desire to experience. Wow! Can you believe that? If you desired to experience it, it would feel good. It's not the reality or the self-concept that's negative. It's your judgment of it. That's why you feel that. Whoa! That's what we call triggers. You can even trigger happiness if you want. Identify with an infinite you that's happy. That's big. So one more time. Triggers, setbacks, negative feelings all come from identifying with and embodying an identity or a self-concept reality that you no longer desire to experience. Sensations from one or many of your infinite selves. That's what those sensations are. Those are sensations from one or many of your infinite selves that you're judging as negative. Wow. Right? Instead of trying to fix one or many of those identities, even the one you're in, simply choose to move to your desired identity now. None of the identities are broken in need of being fixed. None of the realities are broken and in need to be fixed by you. Move from feeling immersed and stuck in one identity or reality, feeling separate from the world and others, to the knowing that you are the world in 3D reality and all identities and all versions of yourself are within you. This is so powerful today. So, affirmations, Ho'oponopono, scripting, imagining, mindfulness, questioning your thoughts, letting go, feeling and releasing negative emotion in the lines of Lester Levinson and the Sedona method and Dr. David Hawkins and all of that stuff, right? All of it's powerful. All of it's powerful. From Abraham Hicks to Neville Goddard to Dr. Joe Dispenza, to all of them, it's all powerful, right? All of it's powerful to improve or change your experience or current reality. And all of it's powerful to move to a new version of yourself. But hear this, the real and true transformation is merely finding, but the real and true transformation is not merely finding, is not merely finding moments of peace, happiness, success, and manifestations in your current perceived reality. Hear this. So you can use all of this stuff to definitely make changes, but not just for incremental improvements in your current reality. The real and true transformation is not merely finding moments of peace, happiness, success, and manifestations in your current perceived reality. Rather, hear this, it comes from identifying with and living from your true divine nature. So using those processes to identify with that, right? Where well-being is inherent, where it's natural to you, where it's who you really are. Do you hear this? So one more time. All of it is powerful. All of these processes to improve, to change your experience of current reality. But the real and true transformation is not merely finding moments of peace, happiness, success, and manifestations in your current perceived reality. Instead, it comes from identifying with and living from your true nature, your I am, your true well-being. That's true transformation. That really is how to close the reality gap for real. I am your host, Tom Kieran, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of Higher Consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, like and share our videos. That's how we get our message out. You can follow us on Facebook at Be Something Wonderful. We have a group called the Be Something Wonderful Ambassadors on Facebook. You can find us there at facebook.com/groups/Be Something Wonderful. It's a totally open group, a wonderful group, metaphysical group, and you can join that. It's an open group, and where you can give guidance and insight, or ask for guidance and insight, or share your stories. Also, you can find us on Twitter at Tom Caron, on Instagram at Tom Caron, or on our website anytime. That could be found at tomcaron.com or besomethingwonderful.com, where all that information is there and more. Creators, until next time, with great love, light, and infinite gratitude, see you soon.